Sandra, let's bring in our panel to dig deeper on this. Matt Gorman is the Executive Vice President of Targeted Victory, and Jonathan Kott, former Communications Director for Senator Manchin. So more on Liz Cheney, who said things like this in the past. Kamala Harris has a more liberal voting record than Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren. Her radical leftist views, raising taxes, banning gun sales, taxpayer dollars for abortion, illegal immigrant health care, eliminating private health insurance would be devastating for America. Or this. Kamala Harris is a radical liberal who would raise taxes, take away guns and health insurance, yada, yada, yada. Or this, amazing to watch how casually Kamala Harris lies to this Iowa senior about health care. And then there was this about what she called a Harris-Biden administration. Listen.
They would defund our police, dismantle our freedom, destroy our history, and abandon our founding values.
I could go on, Matt, but why?
I mean, it's just, I find it hilarious that anyone in Michigan is going to be convinced by Liz Cheney or any of these other has-beens, the former Republicans who go in campaigns with her. I mean, if you are really, there's the thin pool of persuadable voters, and Liz Cheney affects your vote, you've known who you're voting for a year ago. And I have to laugh also. Kamala talks about the opinions of chancellors and kings, but meanwhile, you have Donald Trump serving fries in McDonald's, connecting with every man and voters. It really kind of shows the difference in priorities and opinions in this race.
All right, so let's take a look at the latest RCP average of the 7 battleground states in which Donald Trump now has a marginal lead in all of them. Jonathan, who's got the momentum with 15 days left?
I think it's a 50-50 toss-up for all of those states. I mean, if you look at the numbers, they're all within.
Look at the way that it's trending.
I think she's been trending up since the day she got into the race.
And then why is he ahead?
He's barely ahead, and he's well within the margin of error. And if I were him and I was the known quantity that he is, and he's never actually been able to crack 50% in any of these states, I would be a lot more worried.
Nor has she.
Well, she hasn't been at the top of the ticket. She has gotten into the race, and in 2 months, she's consolidated the party. She's gotten a bunch of Republicans to cross over. She's gotten Liz Cheney to change her mind on her and support her. And she's consolidating voters. But she's also going and talking to voters directly where they are and trying to win voters who can actually vote and change the election, not going to talk to, people in the Bronx who Donald Trump has no chance of winning the Bronx. The Jets have a better chance of winning the Super Bowl than Donald Trump has of winning the Bronx. She's going to suburbs outside of Philadelphia. She's going to places outside of Detroit. She's doing what's smart. He's holding like fake photo ops at McDonald's,
which go viral and
sure, but
absolutely. Captivate the news cycle. But I bet he's really good at pickleball, is it?
Oh, yeah, I wouldn't
just stay out of the kitchen.
I wouldn't doubt it.
Oh, yeah, well, take this back. So there's a lot of Democrats in vulnerable swing states who do seem to be embracing Donald Trump, if even tepidly. Listen here.
Tammy Baldwin got President Trump to sign her Made in America bill.
That's why I wrote a law signed by President Trump forcing drug companies to show their actual prices.
Casey bucked Biden to protect fracking, and he sided with Trump to end NAFTA and put tariffs on China to stop them from cheating.
If you can't beat them, join them.
No, you don't listen to what they say. Watch what they do. Watch their actions. When you have Senate candidates, Tammy Baldwin, even Bob Casey, praising Trump in ads, featuring him favorably in ads, that tells me that they see on their polling that things are not going the way they need to at the top of the ticket. They need to run for cover a little bit, get those Trump crossover voters. That tells me more than anything about where these rates are in these states.
All right, so let's get back to McDonald's. And here's what Trump said when he was at McDonald's. Listen here.
It was a big part of her resume that she worked at McDonald's, how tough a job it was. She specifically worked at the French fry where they make the French fries, and she talked about the heat. It was so tough. She never worked at McDonald's.
I mean, that was a viral moment that captured the news cycle for 2 days. Somebody tweeted to me, if he can fix the ice cream machine, this election's over. I mean, she doesn't have moments like that.
No, but let's keep in mind what this viral moment was. It was a fake photo op of him lying.
Yeah, but that's not fake.
Right.
All those people on the streets outside the McDonald's?
Right.
I don't think they bust them in.
But he went to McDonald's. There was nobody actually there. The people that came up to the drive-thru were fake. He lied at on
I
camera.
don't think they were fake people. They were real people.
They were staged people. They weren't actually people.
But that's why they call it a photo op.
also people-
What's he going to do? Open up the drive-through so
the
somebody
idea
can
that
pull
they
a
didn't
fourth floor on him and blow them away? Come on.
That's correct.
Right.
You know, but like, you know, like look, these are important, right? Like, just like, you know, a bunch of people spontaneously don't appear in a gymnasium at the same
That is
time
true.
for a rally, right? and look, I think this was, if Kamala really worked at McDonald's, her team should have had this done a month ago, right? Like, she's very good at retail politics, and you talk about at the top, this humanizes him in a way. So when the Democrats go with all their kind of apocalyptic rhetoric, he's going to end democracy, yada, 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 this helps humanize him. Work in the fry later, and just like he went to the barber shop, this brings a softer side of him, and he's very relatable in these scenarios.
And again, those people along the streets, they were 6, 8 deep.
He has passionate supporters. I think his job is to go out and talk to them. I think these weird photo ops and messages of Arnold Palmer.
Speaking of weird photo ops, at least Trump has never tried to put a shell in a shotgun or taken a pump-action shotgun to go pheasant hunting instead of an over and under.
I would put Tim Walz up against Donald Trump any day
With
on who shot a gun. that I'm confident on.
All right, guys, 15 days left to go.
Oh, boy.
Thank you for joining us. Appreciate it.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.